I'm sure I can always operate the heavy equipment.
Come on now.
Thank you. I appreciate your opportunity back with you again. It's always one of my favorite places to come because I know I'm going to be well received. And some of you remember me. It's always good to be remembered. It's always good to be invited back. You know, sometimes that doesn't happen. And it's always good to get some amens.
Amen.
Amen. So, all right. Open your Bibles to Joshua chapter 2. We're going to be looking at that in just a few minutes. Joshua chapter 2, reading some verses there. Now, I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you several questions. You ever wonder if your life matters?
Oh, yeah.
You ever been there?
Yes, sir.
You ever wondered if your life makes any difference at all?
Yes, sir.
You ever wonder if you can have any kind of influence? You ever wondered, you ever think that, you wonder if what you do, if what you say, for good or for bad, makes really any difference in anybody's life? Anybody ever ask those questions?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, young people, if you haven't yet, you will.
Come on now.
And maybe you're right there at that point in your life and you're thinking, hey, where am I going? What difference does all this make? Maybe you've been around a little while. Do you ever wonder perhaps you messed up too much?
Come on now. Yes, sir.
You had such a bad personal history that there's no way you could ever influence anyone for good.
Oh, come on now.
You ever wondered about that?
Yes, sir.
You ever wonder if God can use you?
Yes, sir.
Like little old you? Little old insignificant me? Does one simple life matter?
Oh, yes.
Well, how many of you, and I know it's going to be you old people in here.
Come on now. Come on
Anybody
now.
old in here?
Yes,
I'm
sir.
talking about a black and white movie now.
Come on now.
And some of the young kids are going, what's a black and white movie? Every Christmas, how many of you have to watch It's a Wonderful Life?
Yes.
All right, okay. It's not Christmas unless you're going to watch It's a Wonderful Life and a few other ones, you know, like the one with the BB gun and all that. But It's a Wonderful Life. You remember the story there? You know, like Jimmy Stewart, George Bailey. You know, things are going so badly in his life, he says, I wish I had never been born. And you remember he has this opportunity. Now, I'm not saying the theology is good and all this, okay? It's a story, okay? And God sends an angel to show him what his life would have been had he not been born.
Come on now.
And remember Clarence, the angel, takes him into town,
Yes.
and the town's a mess, and it's corrupt, and people are all messed up and angry. And he starts to see that he had not been there, things would have been horrible. And then there's this climactic scene where Clarence, the angel, takes George Bailey to the cemetery. Remember that? And right there is the tombstone of his brother who drowned when he fell through the ice into the pond when he was like 7, 8 years old.
Right.
And George says, but he didn't die. He said, he was saved, I saved him, and he went on and went to the war, and he became a Medal of Honor winner, and when his ship was wrecked, he became a hero, he saved all his men, and Clarence said, no, you weren't there to save him.
Come on now.
All right.
So later on, he wasn't there to save his men. All those men died.
Oh, hallelujah.
One life matters.
Oh, yeah.
One life matters. See, here's the big lie. The world will lie to you. The world will tell you that one life doesn't matter.
Come on now. That's right. That's
The
right.
world will tell you that your past
That's right.
will keep you from being used for any kind of
That's
good.
right.
You're just no good. You messed up. You can't be used anymore. Or more pointedly, kind of on the other side of the coin, the world will tell you it really doesn't matter what you do as long as it doesn't hurt anyone else. It's always going to hurt somebody.
Yes, sir.
It's at least going to hurt you. And if it hurts you, it's going to hurt those who love you.
That's right. That's right.
But the world's going to tell you it doesn't matter. Do what feels good. Do what comes natural.
Right.
If I do what comes natural, it's going to be ugly.
Come on now. Come on now.
Right?
Say that.
You know?
Say that.
If you do what comes natural, it's going to be ugly.
That's right. That's right.
Do what you want. Do what feels good. It's your business. It doesn't matter to anyone else. That's the lie. The world.
That's right.
That's right.
Fulfill your needs, your desires, all your wants. You deserve it. How many commercials have you seen that say something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you deserve it.
Yeah.
Maybe not. These lies are used to justify wrong and in many ways to put you down. And basically what they're saying is, it's kind of a twisted way of saying it, but think about it. What they're saying is your life doesn't matter.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter what you do.
Mhm.
Well, here's the main point. Your life does matter.
That's right. That's right.
Whether you know it or not, whether you're intentional about it or whether it's unintentional, whether it's for good or for bad, you are a person of influence.
Mhm.
Who you are and what you do
Say that.
matters. And it affects people horizontally and vertically.
That's right.
You know what? What are you talking about? Well, let me explain that.
Mhm.
Horizontally, what you do, what you think, how you act, who you are affects horizontally the people you're in contact with now. Your
Mhm.
husband, your wife, your mom, your dad, your children, your peers, your co-workers, your fellow church members. Whatever I do, if I make an awful decision today, tomorrow it affects everybody who knows me, loves me, or even maybe who just know me from a distance. It's going to affect everyone horizontally, good or bad.
That's right.
But it also affects vertically. And we don't like to think about this, especially those of us who are more of a Western individualistic mindset. Hey, just do what you want to do, it doesn't matter. What I do will affect vertically in the sense that it's going to affect my children, my grandchildren,
Mhm.
my great-grandchildren,
Mhm.
and from then on.
Come on now. Come on now.
You know what? That's biblical.
That's right. Say that.
That's biblical.
Yes, it is.
It says the sins and the blessings
Mhm.
are going to affect the generations to come. You mean little old me, insignificant me? Yes.
Yes, that's right.
Every single person is a person of influence. Let's look here in the Bible. Now, you know the story, I hope. You probably do. You've been to Sunday school a time or two. You read the book. Remember Moses led the
Yeah.
people out of Egypt?
Mhm.
You know, and you know all the story of the plagues, and they led them across the Red Sea, and there was some disobedience for the people, so they had to spend 40 years wandering around in the wilderness. And eventually Moses dies. And Joshua takes over, and he leads the people across the Jordan River, and he's going to take them. It's his job to take them into the promised land.
Yes.
Well, he does what any good military leader does, is he's going to spy it out first. So he sends 2 spies to check out the city of Jericho. Walled city, imposing city, tough city. How are we going to take the city of Jericho? Now let's read here in Joshua chapter 2, starting with verse 1. It says, Joshua, son of Nun.
Yeah.
Now my dad, who is a pastor and a theologian and all that, always used to ask the question, what man in the Bible had no parents? Everybody'd say Adam. He'd say, no, Joshua, son of Nun. Think about it.
All right.
Anyway,
That's
I
it.
digress.
That's a good one.
I digress, yeah.
Yeah.
I got a lot of good ones for you. Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent 2 men as spies from the acacia grove, saying, go and scout the land, especially Jericho. So they left, and they came to the house of a woman, a prostitute, named Rahab, and stayed there. The king of Jericho was told, look, some of the Israelite men have come here tonight to investigate the land. Then the king of Jericho sent word to Rahab and said, bring out the men who came to you and entered your house, for they came to investigate the entire land. Now you probably wonder, why are they staying with a prostitute? I don't know all the answers, but I imagine she's probably the one that had the hotel. You know, this is old days. The only place you could stay was over there in the place where there were places to stay, and she was a man in Brent, okay? So they stayed where most people stay. But anyway. Verse 4, but the woman had taken the 2 men and hidden them. So she said, yes, the men did come to me, but I didn't know where they were from. At nightfall, when the gate was about to close, the men went out, and I don't know where they were going. Chase after them quickly, and you can catch up with them. But she had taken them up to the roof and hidden them among the stalks of flax that she had arranged on the roof. The men pursued them along the road to the fords of the Jordan. As soon as they left to pursue them, the gate was shut. Before the men fell asleep, she went up on the roof and said to them, I know that the Lord has given you this land. Pretty perceptive. And that the terror of you has fallen on us, and everyone who lives in the land is panicking because of you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the waters of the Red Sea before you, and when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to Sihon and Og, the 2 Amorite kings you completely destroyed across the Jordan. When we heard this, we lost heart. And everyone's courage failed because of you. For the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on earth below. Now please swear to me by the Lord that you will show kindness to my family, because I showed kindness to you. Give me a sure sign that you will spare the lives of my father, mother, brothers, sisters, and all who belong to me, and save us from death. The man answered her, we will give our lives for yours. If you don't report our mission, we will show kindness and faithfulness to you when the Lord gives us the land. Then she let them down by a rope through the window, since she lived in a house that was built into the wall of the city. Go to the hill country, so that the men pursuing you won't find you, she said to them. Hide yourselves there for 3 days until they return. Afterward, go on your way. Well, the rest of the story, and you may remember this also, is that they told her, you put out a scarlet cord or scarlet rope, hang it out your window, and keep it there so it can be identified. And when we take the city, you'll live. And you remember the story, perhaps, that Joshua, as I said, Joshua fought the Battle of Jericho. He went and took the people, and they marched around the city every day for 6 days, and on the 7th day, they marched around 7 times. They blew their horns. They threw the jars to the ground. They made this big racket. What happened? The walls fell down. Except for that little section. The one with the scarlet cord. And all the people were killed, died, except for Rahab and her family. She and her family were saved. Now, 5 things I want you to note about this story. Number 1, note that Rahab had heard about and knew what God had done. She had heard about and knew what God had done. She explains there in verses 9 and 10 about the reputation, how the reputation of the children of Israel, the reputation of God preceded them. We heard what God had done for you. He took you out of Egypt. And we heard what you had done to those other kings. We're panicking. We're scared. We knew what was going to happen, and we're afraid of what's going to happen here. Now here's where it all starts. Here's where our influence starts, where your influence starts, where my influence starts, is basically, bottom line, do you know who God is? Do you know what He's done? Do you know what He's done for you?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know that He has given you life?
Yes, sir. Yes,
that
sir.
everything you have, He gave you.
That's right. That's
All
right.
that surrounds you, He gave you.
Say that. Say that.
Now, do you have a relationship?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Do you know that He's brought you to this point?
Come on
Right
now.
here
That's
today.
right.
Yes, sir.
You know, I sometimes look back on my life.
Come on now.
I have this conversation with my parents and my wife. My parents, after all their years of being missionaries, and maybe you've done this too. Sometimes you kind of think, you know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I made a bad decision.
That's right, that's right.
I did something that was probably not a good idea. And I'd like to take it back, but you know, if I had not done that, God would not have done this, and everything else here.
That's
Isn't that
right.
amazing
Say
how God
that.
does that?
Say that.
You know,
Say that. Say
That was
that.
probably the wrong thing,
Right,
and
right.
it hurt, and I wish I had done it,
Yes,
but isn't God good how He
All
just,
the time.
He just
God
kind
is
of
so
takes
good.
us through it, and He uses that, He uses
Yes.
our mistakes, and He uses even the sins we commit, not that it's an excuse for
Yes.
sin, but He
That's
uses
right.
it. And I am where I am today, and I am who I am today because
Yes.
of all that, not because of all the stuff I did, but because God used all that stuff
Yes,
I
yes,
did.
yes,
Can you say that?
Yes, sir.
yes.
Can you acknowledge that who you are right now, whether you're 15 or 65 or 85, God's using everything in your life to bring you right now. But that's where it starts, because that, as a result of a personal relationship.
Come on now. Come on now.
You seek to know Him personally,
Yes, sir.
intimately, follow
Yes.
His ways. See, the greatest influence we can
Yes, sir.
have
Thank you.
is
Yes.
our testimony
Mm.
and the example of our daily walk with God.
That's right.
Oh,
Without that foundation, our influence may be good, but it's not going to be eternally impacting.
All right, man.
May not be famous, may not be rich,
Come on now. Say it.
you know, may not be able to do a lot of things and
All right.
accomplish a lot of things, but you can say, I know the Lord, and the Lord knows
All
me.
right.
That's
the
right.
greatest
That's right.
influence.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's where it
Oh,
starts.
yes.
Now, number 2, I want you to notice here is that once Rahab knew about God, she chose to do the right thing
Oh, yeah.
at great personal risk. Verse 4 says she hid them. Verse 15 says she let them down with a rope. She helped them escape. She did not choose the comfortable, the easy thing, what the crowd would have wanted. Now think about it. Rahab was a traitor
Mhm.
to her own people.
Come on now. Come
Yeah,
on.
yeah, in the big picture, she was doing what God wanted. She was helping the people of God. We know that from where we stand, but think
All right,
about
come
it.
on. All right.
If you're her next door neighbor, what would you think?
Mhm.
You know, in that day, in that moment, she betrayed her people. She did the right thing, but it was not the popular thing.
That's right.
Mhm.
It was not the culturally correct thing. It was not the politically correct thing. It was not the culturally acceptable thing. It certainly would have been the popular thing to do. But at great personal risk, she chose to do the right thing. Not the easy thing. Not what everybody else would have done. Not what would have gotten her the Citizen of the Year award.
Hmm.
She
Say that.
did the right thing.
Amen.
What do we consider
Hmm.
when we make decisions? When we act? Or when we react? Too often, we seek what's comfortable, what's easy, what seems to be the popular thing, what seems to be the expected thing. I'm preaching it myself right now.
Come on now. Come on
Pastor,
now.
we always preach ourselves, don't we?
Amen.
Are we willing to be and to do the right thing at potentially great personal expense and risk? Do we think through the consequences of our decisions, how they will influence and affect others, both horizontally and vertically?
That's right.
We've got to think through. I'm amazed. I'm amazed at politicians and celebrities and just everyday people who, what were you thinking?
Mhm.
What made that sound like a good idea?
Hmm.
Why did you think that would never be found out?
Come on now.
Well, it was confidential on the internet. Nothing's confidential on the internet.
Nothing.
You texted, you posted,
That's
it's
right,
not
that's
confidential. What makes you
That's
think?
right.
It's kind of like this governor of Virginia. Did you hear about that guy? Having an affair with his secretary, and he's texting her, and the texting is synced through the cloud to his home iPad. I'm thinking, maybe, I don't know if you should be fired for being immoral, but you should be fired for being stupid.
Yeah.
What? Are you ever amazed?
Yes.
But we do stupid things. don't
That's
we?
right.
We don't think through the consequences. We don't stop half a second and say,
That's
Lord,
right. Stop the thing.
Lord, is this a good idea?
That's right.
Should I punch post? Should I hit send? Should I say this thing to my wife, my husband, my kids, my parents? We don't stop and think about it, do we? And not just all about technology. I mean, people always done dumb things. We just do it quicker.
That's right. That's right.
We just do it quicker nowadays. Well, I talk to God when I have to make great and momentous decisions. Yeah, but just those daily decisions about family and school and work and health and habits and money, just your daily walk with God. Do we make the right decision? What do we think about? Do we do the right thing even if it's going to be risky? Third thing to note right here is Rahab's kindness was remembered. And that saved her family. In this short term, her decisions had positive impact. Look on down at chapter 6, verse 17. It says, but the city and everything in it were set apart to the Lord for destruction. Only Rahab the prostitute and everyone with her in the house will live, because she hid the men we sent. That's Joshua talking. Then you drop down to 22 and 23. Joshua said to the two men who had scouted the land, go to the prostitute's house and bring the woman out of there, and all who were with her, just as you promised her. So the young men who had scouted went in and brought out Rahab and her father, mother, brothers, and all who belonged to her. They brought out her whole family and settled them outside the camp of Israel. See, there was no guarantee that her kindness, that Rahab's kindness to the spies would be remembered. They could have just left and completely forgotten about her or not cared. She did the right thing without any guarantee. They promised, but there was no guarantee
That's right, that's right.
that she would be remembered. However, she acted and she did the right thing regardless. And are we willing to do the right thing even when there's no guarantee of anybody noticing or even caring?
Yes, sir.
You probably often may have heard that that's the definition of character.
That's right.
You're going to do
that's
the right
right.
thing even if
That's
nobody
right.
ever knows about it.
That's
That's
right.
right.
Come on now, come on now.
But on the other hand, remember, people are watching.
That's right, all the time.
Now,
Yeah.
that could encourage you or it could make you a little paranoid. I'll let you kind of figure out where you are. But people are watching.
That's
All
right.
the time.
They say, oh yeah, we're watching the pastor, of course. Oh, they're watching you.
Mhm.
Your kids are watching you.
Mhm.
Your neighbors are watching you.
Mhm.
You know, that's not to make us paranoid or nervous, but it should give us a great sense of accountability and responsibility.
That's right, that's right.
That's happened to me several times in my life. Back 30 years ago, went through a difficult time in my life and lost some businesses and had a terrible time. And several people in our church come up to me and says, man, we've been watching you as you've been going through this. And we want, I was like, you have? That makes me a little nervous. I mean, what? People are watching.
Yeah, that's
People are
right.
watching. And parents, and grandparents, your kids are especially watching. Well, that's been hit home to me. You know, I remember one of the things that was the greatest thing, and I don't remember the context, it was Father's Day or birthday or something, but my daughter wrote on a card, you know, something, or maybe it might have even been my 60th birthday or something, but she wrote on there how, don't think it went unnoticed, she said, that when I was in high school and I'd walk down the stairs every morning, I'd see you at the breakfast table reading your Bible. It never occurred to me that she was paying that much attention because she was half asleep, grumpy, you know, walking. She said, don't think I didn't
All right now, all right.
notice. You know, people are watching,
Yes,
even when you
sir.
think they're not, especially your kids.
That's right.
All right. Number 4, Rahab's influence was remembered long-term. And thus she not only had short-term influence, she had great influence. And now how do we know? We're talking about it right now. Think about it. 3,000 years later, we're talking about it. Now, look over real quickly. Matthew chapter 1. Genealogy of Jesus. Chapter 1, verse 2. Abraham fathered Isaac. Isaac fathered Jacob. Jacob fathered Judah and his brothers. Judah fathered Perez and Zerah by Tamar. Perez fathered Hezron. Hezron fathered Aram. Aram fathered Aminadab. Aminadab fathered Nahshon. Nahshon fathered Salmon. Salmon fathered Boaz by Rahab. And Boaz fathered Obed by Ruth. Obed fathered Jesse. Jesse fathered King David. And if we kept on reading, guess who we'll end up with?
Oh,
Jesus.
right.
There's a prostitute in the genealogy of Jesus. Now there's a whole bunch of sermons right there, just in this genealogy about the people God used. Well, you may say that's the Bible. That's special people, important people, people chosen by God. Not me. Surely my decisions and my influence cannot be that important, that influential. Nobody cares. Remember, what was Rahab's profession? God used her.
Yes, he did.
So he'll use you.
Yes, sir.
So number 5, point number 5, Rahab's background didn't matter. And neither does yours.
That's right. Come
She
on.
chose to do the right thing, became a blessing to many people because of that decision. Here's the point. God will take you right where you are.
Come on.
If you answer His call, and without a doubt, His call is on every person in here, every
Yes, sir.
life.
Yes,
You can be
sir.
a person of great influence, a
Yes,
person
sir.
of great blessing to many, now horizontally, and in the future vertically. See, here's the thing. Life is pretty short. You know, and if you're 15, you're thinking, oh, life is long. No, but if you're 62 like me, you realize, whoa, what happened? Life is pretty short. There's only so much time, so much we can do. Let God use you, whoever you are, wherever you are,
Right.
to leave your mark in the world. Now see, we all leave footprints of sands on time, and we all leave footprints in the sands of time to be seen by somebody, somewhere, at some point. And our footprints may have great impact, small impact, but they do matter. Now I'm going to read you some stories. I still got some time left. I'm not leaving yet. You think I'm finishing up, but not yet. I'm going to read you a story. I want you to sit back and listen to this story. I'm going to read you a contrasting story of two men. And this is a true story. You can Google it, not now, later, but you'll find out it's a true story. Two men who left footprints in the sands of time. Contrasting stories. One, his name was Russell H. Conwell, and the other one was Johnny Ring. Now just listen to the story. After the Civil War, Russell H. Conwell attended law school and eventually settled in Boston. We were just in Boston, okay, where he had a lucrative law practice. As an attorney, he was once asked to meet with the leaders of the church in suburban Lexington, Massachusetts, to explain to them how to close the doors of the dying church and dispose of its property. At the meeting, Conwell suggested that they should try one more time to revive the church. He even offered to come and help to the church for a work day and help them fix up the old run-down building. Well, the leaders all agreed to have a work day on the following Saturday, but Conwell was the only one who actually showed up to do the work. Has that ever happened to you, Pastor? No, don't answer this. Well, Conwell proved to be faithful, a man of great commitment and dedication. Because of his faithfulness, his hard work, in order to help out some more, he started to fill the pulpit because the church could not afford to actually hire a pastor. In 1879, he left his law practice and became the full-time pastor of that church in Lexington. Well, under Conwell's leadership, the church in Lexington grew and prospered. And a few years later, Russell H. Conwell accepted the call to pastor Grace Baptist Church, a struggling congregation in a poor section of Philadelphia, even though he had to take a pay cut to go. Well, this church also grew quickly under Conwell's leadership and eventually became the largest church in the United States at that time, with a building that could seat over 4,000 people. The name was changed to Baptist Temple, and Conwell at one time expressed the goal, the purpose of the church as this. And this is what he said the goal of the church was. And mine's pretty good for yours here, and I know it fits. He said the mission of the church is to save the souls of men. Of course, men and women. That's its true mission. We are here to save the souls of dying sinners. We are here for no other purpose. And the mission of the church being so clear, that's the only test of a real church. In 1884, a young man came to Conwell for counsel. He wanted to become a minister, but he could not afford to go to college. So Conwell offered to personally teach him one evening a week. The young man asked if he could bring a few friends, and Conwell agreed. 6 men showed up that very first night of class. By the third class, there were 40 young men. And from that start, over 100,000 students have attended Temple College, later called Temple University, before Conwell retired as president 38 years later. In 1965, Temple University was acquired by the state of Pennsylvania, and in 1969, the Conwell School of Theology, at one time part of Temple University, merged with the Gordon School of Divinity, became Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary, one of the leading seminaries in the country. Now, there was also a poor lady in the church who became ill, could not afford to go to the hospital. The church rented a room in a nearby rooming house and hired a practical nurse to take care of her. Well, then there was another one, and another person, and another person. They rented more rooms, and then from that meager start, eventually that became the Samaritan Hospital. Before Russell H. Conwell retired as president of the hospital, they had treated over 400,000 patients, and today it is the Temple University Hospital and Medical School. Now, Russell H. Conwell was most well known during his life for a lecture he would give entitled Acres of Diamonds, and perhaps some of you have heard that. During his life, he gave the lecture over 6,000 times across America, making several $1 million in speaking honorariums. And we're talking about several $1 million 150 years ago. On top of that, while traveling by train, he also authored 40 books. What's your excuse, Francis? The lecture starts with a story about a man who sold his farm to go looking for diamonds. After he died, acres of diamonds were found on the farm the man had sold. In 1914, Russell H. Conwell delivered the lecture for the 5,000th time Dignitaries from all over the country attended, including the governors from 9 states. Now, Conwell practiced what he preached. He never kept a dime of the money earned from his lectures. After each presentation, he would deduct his expenses from the honorarium, and the rest he gave to young men attending college. The ministries of the church in Lexington, Massachusetts, Baptist Temple in Philadelphia, Temple University, Samaritan Hospital, the many people he inspired to succeed through his lectures and his books, the lives of each of those young men were all footprints that Russell H. Conwell left in the sands of time. Pretty impressive.
Amen.
Now listen to a very different story, contrasting story. A man named Johnny Ring. Now while Conwell was tall and impressive, Johnny Ring looked like a little kid. When the Civil War broke out, Johnny Ring wanted to join the Union Army. He tried to enlist, but was rejected because he was too small. He tried again and again, and was finally accepted, but only as an orderly for a captain in a local artillery company. The men in this company were devoted to their captain. Before going into battle, they bought him a sword and it had the Latin words for "true friendship is eternal" engraved in silver and gold on the scabbard. To Johnny, this sword represented the honor of battle. Every night he'd take it off the center post in the captain's tent and polish it up. And Johnny was also a strong Christian. And every night he would read his Bible in the captain's tent. The captain, however, was an atheist. He laughed at Johnny for reading the Bible for praying. And this eventually led Johnny to go outside the tent and read the Bible outside the captain's tent to avoid being the subject of his jokes. But Johnny was faithful to his Lord, and he continued to read his Bible to pray, in spite of his captain's kidding and ridicule. And one day, that artillery unit was about to be overrun by the Confederate Army. And so they retreated across the river over an old wooden covered bridge. When they got to the other side, Johnny ran up to the sergeant and said, "Where's the captain's sword?" And the sergeant said, "Well, we left so quickly, it's still back in the tent where he always leaves it." Well, Johnny Ring instantly turned and ran back across the bridge, and he weaved his way through the Confederate soldiers. Basically, they just ignored him because he looked like a little kid. When he got to the captain's tent, he grabbed the sword, headed back toward the bridge. But when he got to the edge of the river, the bridge had been set on fire by his own men, so the rebel army could not cross over to pursue him. With a sword in his hand, Johnny Ring started across the blazing bridge. Both the men of the North and the men of the South spotted him on the bridge as gunfire continued. Every few steps, Johnny would stick out his head over the edge of the bridge to get a breath of fresh air. And finally, an officer of the Confederate Army ran down to the edge of the river and waved a white handkerchief, and the gunfire stopped. And he yelled over to Johnny, "Come back! We'll set you free!" And the soldiers from both sides ran down to the riverside. They began shouting at Johnny. The men of the North would yell, "Go back! You can't make it!" And the men from the South would say, "Come back! We'll set you free! Come back!" But Johnny Ring could not hear them because of the roar of the blaze and kept moving forward through the fiery inferno. When Johnny disappeared into the covered portion of the bridge, the battlefield went silent except for the crackling of the fire. Then both sides cheered when he appeared on the other side, his clothes all on fire. When Johnny reached the end of the bridge, he fell into the water. The men of the North pulled him from the river, put him on a gun carriage, took him back to the Army hospital. A few days later, Johnny Ring died. But before he died, he said, "Give the captain his sword." That captain, an atheist captain, thought about the life of Johnny Ring. Remembered that he was a strong Christian. Before the war's over, the captain gave his own life to Christ because he remembered the faithful witness and impact of Johnny Ring's life. The only footprint Johnny Ring left in the sands of time that we know of was just that one life of his beloved captain. That's it. Oh, by the way, his captain was Russell H. Conwell.
Come on now.
Right.
Come on now. Come on now.
Wow. Now, not all of us can be Russell H. Conwell, but we can all be Johnny Ring.
Come on now. Yes, sir.
We may have only influenced one person, but who knows what's going to happen in the generations to come.
Mhm.
Do your actions matter?
Oh,
Do your
yes.
decisions matter?
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Do they matter to you?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Do you
sir.
have a foundation
Yes.
built upon a personal relationship
Yes, sir.
with Jesus Christ by which you can make
Come on
those
now.
decisions and be a good influence?
Yes, sir.
What if you've blown it in the past?
Hmm.
God is the God of second chances,
Oh, yes, he
third
is.
chances, and fourth
Yes.
chances.
Yes, he is.
God is the God of another chance.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Thank
Just
you,
the
Lord.
fact that you have blown it big time, but let God turn your life around, that'll be the single greatest decision and the most influential act in your life.
Mhm.
Don't let today go by without acknowledging Him as the ruler
Thank you.
of your entire
That's right.
That's right. That's right.
Now here's the invitation. We're going to pray, and I'm going to turn it over to the pastor to the praise team. First, I know some of you, don't know all of you, but there might be someone here who needs to take that first foundational decision of confessing that you're a sinner, and that you need Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. There might be one person here, 5, 50, 85. Maybe you've been to church, maybe you've come to church, maybe you played the part pretty good, but maybe you can say, you know, I really don't know Jesus Christ as my personal Lord and Savior. I need to confess that I am a sinner, that I'm apart from Him, and I can't do anything on my own, and I got to, as we sang earlier about the cross,
right.
it's all on the cross, and that's all it depends on. You make that decision today, because that's where it starts.
Oh,
You
yes.
can be a good person. You can do good stuff. I'm not saying that all lost people are bad people in that sense. Yeah, they're not good. But eternally, you need to make that decision. So maybe that's someone here who needs to make that decision. But the next part of the invitation is simply, and this is probably most of us here. Yeah, we have that foundation. But we just need to say, Lord, I need to turn every aspect of my life over to you, every decision. I need you to help me think through not only what I do on Sunday morning, but Monday through Saturday. Work decisions, family decisions, health decisions, money decisions, school decisions, neighbor decisions. Everything I do, I need to be conscious of the fact that I'm a person of influence. Everything I say, everything I do, everything I don't say or don't do, refrain from saying, refrain from everything, I'm an influence. Now that might make you a little nervous, but it could be some positive nervousness.
Oh, yes.
Because if we're in Christ and Christ is in us,
Come on now.
as lose the old cliche, sometimes we're the only Bible anybody's going to read.
Say that. Say
That's
that.
right. That's right.
And that's your person. So maybe you just need to, right where you are, or come here forward and pray. You just need to say, Lord, thank you for the reminder
Yes. Thank you, Lord.
that if I am yours and I'm in you and you in me, everything I say, everything I do, number one, I need to turn it over to you.
That's right.
I
That's
need
right.
to get lined up with your will, your mind, and be aware that everything influences somebody horizontally. Let's pray, and then Pastor, I'll let you.